Now, let's talk about audits. So
Yep.
oftentimes before you get to that planning to where you can go talk to the executives, you need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
What is your experience? Is this something that can be done in-house? Should it be outsourced? How often should it be done? What are your recommendations around audits?
So it's going to really depend on the size of your website, essentially. When I was at a small website, it was relatively easy. I'd wander around the website. The templates were relatively few. We had a limited number of sections, so you could go in and say, well, if we brought forward a piece of content on this page, and it was in this section, then here's the template, and here's what it would look like if it was otherwise perfectly optimized. There you go. And you come up with a list of recommendations for that template. It doesn't really change at scale, except that you may have more templates to deal with. So the first thing you want to do is you want to understand what the priorities of the business are. So then you start taking a look at, well, what are our top drivers? What's bringing in traffic? What's bringing in revenue? What are the big things that are actually driving, keeping the lights on every day at this business? When you identify those, you can track that back to individual pages. And then you can say, okay, so this page over here converts really well. It's a high priority item for us. We want to make sure that stays in place. Oh, well, that uses template A. Okay, well, there's 80,000 other pages that use template A as well, and there's a descending order of value in these because this one converts well, people want that product, they can get it from us, and so on. But the fact is, because template A hits all those 80,000, and it's also the highest value one, you can then tell the company, hey, look, you should invest in doing this work on template A because it will net positive results for us, and then this revenue we have will increase due to the amount of traffic we'll get from it. So that's a way to prioritize it, but you also have to be careful and make sure that you're watching what your conversion rates look like in these areas, because it might be the biggest driver of traffic, but if it's not the biggest converting page and it's not driving the money, then it's of lesser value, right? So folks need to start thinking that way in identifying the pages that they want to audit before they even start to audit. The actual audit itself is the relatively simple part. What are the links? What's the link ecosystem look like? Internal, external. What's my technical on-page SEO look like? What's the depth of my content? Ask yourself the question, if I came here as a visitor, does this content answer my question? Does it answer all of my questions on this topic? Or will it encourage more questions that go unanswered and encourage someone to leave and try another website? So make sure it's authoritative. All of those things are just a normal part of your auditing process, but that comes after you identify what you need to actually look at.
And how often do you think somebody should do an audit, or what was your experience with frequency?
I'm going to say, well, so when I was doing it myself, when I was hand auditing at my smaller company, I was generally doing this stuff. I was producing reports generally on a 2 to 4 week basis, depending on other workload items, that kind of idea. It certainly wasn't a daily thing. When we moved over to MSN, we had our own system that was running a crawler and prioritizing things and stack ranking items to work on, and that ran constantly. That produced reports in near real time for us. And we had to have that because we had thousands of templates to manage globally across thousands of websites. And so we really had to get ahead of the curve to be able to say to the right people to get the right investments made and to fight for the right things with engineering to make sure that we actually made that impact. So as you get up in scale and you end up with more subdomains, you end up with more actual standalone domains, you end up with more entities that you have to manage, then that pace may increase a little bit for you. But again, if you can identify what the important things are, you're okay. And let's face it, the basic best practices for SEO, they don't change very frequently. So if you go through and do an audit on your website, you're generally going to be good for a while, okay? That doesn't mean you won't be busy doing audits, because most websites that are out there will have multiple areas that they can look at. You've got a content section over here with articles, that's got one template, CMS. You've got an e-commerce section over here, that's a completely other world. You've got a blog floating on over here, and that's a completely separate thing. It can get a little bit insane, right? So you'll stay busy. I know when we looked at it at MSN and we said, how many domains do we have in the world of MSN? And if we were to optimize all of those, how long would it take us? And at that time, we estimated it would take us 38 years to go through everything. So I don't think SEOs will run out of work. Even on the small and mid-sized sites, they're not going to run out of work by any stretch, right?